Hey, everybody. Happy Wounds to Wins, Wake Up Wednesday. So I'm coming today to talk about the road to recovery and allowing the healing to begin, what that looks like. So from a personal perspective, I'm going to talk about healing therapy and just the mental health part of healing. So of course, I believe in therapy. I've gone to therapy just good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you just need a trusted confidant to talk to, right? So in therapy, when you're leaving out of toxic relationships, abusive situations, or you're having issues dealing with grief and loss, maybe it's anxiety, depression, PTSD, whatever the case may be, whatever your therapeutic needs are is your business. But in therapy, they tell you to establish a healthy support system of trusted people that know you, that know the real you, pre-trauma, post-trauma, that can always remind you and reiterate things, good qualities about you, and who won't judge you, and who also holds you accountable. That's key. You don't want a bunch of yes people around, or they helping you blame the next person for your issues, especially people that have known you forever. Even if it's family, they've known you since you got here. You need people in your life to call out the things that weren't addressed maybe in your family that they know continuously go on. You need people when you're going through your grief and loss and your pain, coming from out of traumatic experiences, to really nurture your growth and development and your healing. You want them to listen, provide healthy feedback, check in on you. But I've noticed that in this journey, I realized that there's more unhealed people in the world with their own unresolved issues that become accustomed to covering up, so they don't even know how to be that support network. So when my therapist says, do you have a support system? I reflect back on when was the last time I did have a support system. Was I nourished in a supportive environment as a child? Did they foster a healthy conflict resolution environment as a child? Because when you go through trauma and the flight and flee part, you go back to what you know. Sometimes when something turns out bad, you go and reflect on all the mistakes you made, all the abandonment, all the rejection, all the hurt, all the betrayal. You go back and you start the depression comes because you feel like that's all you've received. So when you're adult, the therapist is telling you, where's your support network? Well, even when you think you have a supportive network, everybody got their own jish. And depending on what you attract from familiar spirits, we might have to establish a new network. I'm learning that because the network that you had that once worked in the past, before the trauma, they were meeting you at your needs of who you were. But when you start to come out of a thing and you start to grow and evolve into a new thing, and all things are coming off of you, and you realize the severity of operating in that old way, the same people might not work to be your support system because they now are still operating in the unhealed trauma of their own. So you don't want to get support from people that don't know how to deal with issues, don't know how to be honest. You don't want to deal with the same selfish people that allow stuff to happen to you on their watch. Now you're going to them for advice and you're having venting sessions with someone that's in denial. So when I sat across from my therapist, I'm like, people can only support you at the max of the support that they received, unless they've chosen to adapt and get new skills to go beyond what they were given and what they've used. So when I look at my support system, it's not because I don't have great people around, but then who am I allowing to speak into my life, and what place of trauma or unhealed, unresolved issues are they speaking to me from? And it's not to judge. That's why therapy in an unbiased environment with an unbiased person is absolutely essential and helpful, because they have the professional experience to speak, to get you on a road to being healthy. That's all that matters. So it's a lot of loneliness, a lot of isolation during this healing process. It's a lot of getting to know me and figuring out what network works and what network does not work, and how to establish a new healthy network. And I mean, that thing replays in your head, because I can be honest, when you're coming out of something or you're facing something, you have expectations on the network that you had, the support system that you thought was in place. But when you go through something that nobody else has gone through or don't know how to deal with, you find out quickly that that support system may not have the capacity to hold you up during those times. And we can't take it personal. So I was telling my therapist that I found it extremely hard to find a level of security or just mindfulness during this time. And by mindfulness, what I mean is just understanding every person's grief and loss is different. Every person's traumatic experiences from whatever abuse or whatever they've gone through, it's a different level of isolation and loneliness. The ordeal is different for each of us. And primarily for me, coming out of this last situation, I was around somebody for 14 years, and then all of a sudden it's gone. I chose to dissolve. I chose to ask him to leave. I didn't realize I wouldn't know how to move around, because I was moving around with a limb for 14 years, and now it's severed. Pop, it's gone. It's done. No communication. And although that limb was poisonous at times, it was useful at times, it was good at times, it was working at times, it was very toxic at times. And the toxicity overrode the good times, because it was so many years of misusing that limb. Like, when you have something in your life and it's good to you and you're good to it, and then a person chooses to misuse it and abuse it, you have to realize that it's pulling the rest of the body down, and you got to sever that tie, sever that limb. And that was the hard part, because a person that's healthy only wants to hold on to the good times. You learn from the bad, but you definitely hold on to the good. And I had a lot of good times, like a lot. So every memory of the good times is what I chose to cherish in and out of the relationship. So that makes you sad, because now you're referencing what was so super good for so many years, but then it makes you sad. But I don't have a regret, because what's the disappointing side is that those bad things is somebody choosing to be bad, to mess up all of those wonderful times. And that's where you fight depression. That's where you fight, not regret, because I don't regret it, but that's where you so disappointed. You like, damn, all of that, and you just chose to still operate in that, like, to choose to insert that poison into something so good, because they had so many unaddressed issues. And so in therapy, you have to deal with yourself. Like, I'm disappointed that you chose to bring that in my life, because you chose that for your life. So, after you look at that, when you come out of such traumatic, abusive things or traumatizing things, you don't have a real sense of belonging. Not to mention, if the split was messy, you got to stand up for yourself against the backlash. You got to know that there's people that's reaching out to you just to get a story. You know that there's clicks, there's been clicks. But see, a lot of the things that I'm seeing now and hearing now about this person, I already seen it when I was in it. And I chose to stay towards my roots of what I know. So I had people from my stock around me at all times. It wasn't for them to value that. It was for me to value that, because that kept me sane. So that's another part about it. And also, I opted to do preventative work to let mutual acquaintances know what I wanted them to know. And that was which we were no longer together. So they could not have to call me or text me when they see him with people. They don't have to tell me what he's saying, because I really wasn't integrated into his folks anyway. I wasn't accepted by them. You know what I mean? They front like he front. So they didn't accept me at all. They didn't know my children at all. So, and that was their choice. Like during the trauma, I was healing because the net of comfort God provided for me always allowed me to see what it really was. I didn't allow the smoke screen and the masks and the facade and the cliques of who this person was cloud my judgment of knowing who people really are, or cloud my discernment, So I had to deal with all of that. And I would never be surprised about what that person's doing and saying now, because I seen what that person did and used to do while we were together. So I'm very confident in the boundaries that I finally set up for myself that were well overdue, like period. They were so well overdue. Therapists, when we went to couples therapy, they told me to set up boundaries right in front of them. And I didn't even understand why I needed boundaries with somebody I love so much, because I wasn't really understanding what I was going through at home, because I didn't know to the extent of what it was until it was at the end. So I'm very proud of myself. I'm confident of the boundaries that I set. The decision I made was based on behaviors that I did not deserve and I was so tired of. And so anytime that I go to therapy, anytime that I reflect and they challenge me for the assignments to do certain things, I say, you know what? I know a lot of what I didn't deserve and a lot of what I didn't give back. And anytime I have a down moment, be proud of the small accomplishments, the big accomplishments, the big milestones, the things you could have done that you didn't do. That makes you powerful. That makes you a brilliant light to the world. That makes you a God's chosen light to the world. And that takes a lot to do when you've received a lot of darkness and then somebody betrays you who knows the darkness that you suffered as a child, as a young adult, and they still decide to be dark towards you because they feel like you can take it because you've taken so much. Like, I don't pity people like that anymore. I pray for them even more. It is a pitiful mindset for people to have, to place stuff on people unfairly, because even despite that, even darkness is drawn a light. So I know I am the light. I walk in the light. I didn't give back what I felt people deserve. So that keeps me humble. That keeps me hopeful. It's a lot of hard days just healing and forgiving. And I know that another person's way of living or justifying their mistreatment of me and others, or the inability to take accountability, is not my fault. Hell, we can all make excuses, but the shift for me is when a person puts misbehavior and abuse above the love they claim they have for you by showing it in their actions without, pausing or regret, just doing it effortlessly like they're going to do them. Like when you can see a person choose to stand in your face and betray you and just try to force feed this to you 24/7 because they're losing grip and control, because you're discerning, you're seeing, you're waking up out of the slumber. When they start to do things in your face without pause or regret, they don't care. That's how they wear you down. And it took a long time for that because I'm a tough cookie, but I didn't have to endure that. And that's what therapy teaches you. You don't have to endure what you've endured in the past. Your toughness doesn't come from mistreatment. You could be a strong person and choose to put up boundaries a lot faster, a lot sooner, a lot quicker than what you once did. And that's what I learned in healing. So not letting people continuously, countlessly reoffend me, especially when I'm not an offender unless I'm reacting to an offense. Like, I don't have to prove that to anybody. That's not on my jacket. That's not the stripes that I wear. I'm not a repeat offender because I have a fear of God. I have a knowing growing up with solid people that when you do people wrong, there's consequences. So I just never tested people's chin like that. I never test people's boundaries like that. These types of scars and wounds come with deep psychological and physical trauma and damages, and they're profound. And sometimes they're lasting emotional scars and effects that come up that you don't really even anticipate coming up, or thinking that you're not really tripping, and then you realize something triggers it and you're affected by it. But I think just knowing what your triggers are and knowing how quickly you assess the trigger, where it came from, and then setting a boundary up to cut that out of your life as you're going on, it helps. Like I did a vlog about how somebody was talking to me and I really needed them to get over this crossroad of how to get this professional licensing that I need. But I had to set up my boundary. And I was like, oh, hold up. I'm not in that space where I can tolerate nor do I have the patience to understand your slick talk, your mouth, because I'm on go right now. I'm in pain. So I had to immediately set up that boundary. Like, I got to step away from this. And I mean, it's just knowing them a lot faster. So, when you get in love, you start ignoring a lot more stuff. So I haven't been tested in the love relationship area yet. I ain't really trying to be outside, although outside trying to make me come outside. I'm not trying to do that, because I know when you share that heart space, you allow a lot more things than you would on an average basis. So I need the Teflon Don to come. I need the kryptonite to be there to be like, Avis, go, set those boundaries up, have that iron fence up, because it took my ex a long time to get in. He said I had built a steel wall around me. Well, celibate when he met me for almost 8 years, a steel wall barrier for a couple of years. He didn't meet my kids for 2 years. And I have to say, he got in, but he still chose to be who he was. He didn't respect that barrier. He didn't respect those boundaries. He didn't respect how hard it was to get to me. And it wasn't just him. It was the spirit that was operating in him. That was the assignment, to break down that barrier, break down that steel wall. And I realized that I'm special and unique, and I'm one of God's chosen, because the devil's seen that. So I'm taking my time, because if the devil's using people like my ex, which was my dog, that was my best friend at one point. If he using people like that, God dang, he pissed off with me. So I'm going to lay low. I'm going to fight the fight and be in the warfare. But I'm going to lay low, because I went through a phase where I was like, girl, you don't know how to pick them. But I ain't picked very many. But daggone, you didn't use the church person? Jesus. So, yeah, I'm just playing. But, I'm coming to the place of healing where I got love for all the good I see in people all the time. Like, I'm never going to let Satan take that from me. I ain't blind or delusional. And I got love for myself a lot more now, where even when I see the bad, I can't ignore it. I can't ignore all the red flags. And I got to step off. Even if I love the best friend part, even if I love the good part about a person, I got to step off and let them do their work. I am not going to co-join myself with anybody else that has not even never addressed their own issues. All right. This is Wounds to Wins, Wake Up Wednesday. God's love and God's peace to you all. I was going to pop on camera today, but I just got off a very nice call. And so I wanted to pump this out. That's more important than showing my face. So God's love to you all. God's healing to you. Until next time, this is your girl, Miss Motivational Mogul Mindset, Ava Cherie. Be inspired.